All right, Chapter 2, The Language of Play. There was a time when play was king and early childhood was its domain. Fantasy was practiced leisurely and openly in a language unique to the kingdom. It is still spoken in Mrs. Ruparel's son's kindergarten. Ah, wada wada. Pretend we are walking in Egypt and there's no water, but we see a big river. Gulp, gulp, gulp. Come on, drink it. No, I'm drowning. Help, help. Wait, there's a huge bullfrog jumping, higher than the World Trade Center. He can't stay alive. There's no bugs to eat there anymore. Hey, what's going on? It's exploding. Jump away. Hurry, jump in the river. The bullfrog is on fire. Come on, we gotta swim fast. Get away from the fire. Swim faster? Whew. I saved you. The children swimming to safety away from the exploding bullfrog have begun a conversation about the World Trade Center tragedy. Vijay from India is newly arrived in Mrs. Ruparel's son's class. He has not yet begun to play with other children, but he listens to their fantasy play in the blocks, murmuring to the toy airplane. He circles around himself at the edge of the block area. Hey, you want to bomb us? Asks the blond boy who is rebuilding the tower of blocks that has just exploded. It seems a gracious invitation, but Vijay shakes his head, not ready to take direct action. There is another way in this classroom to enter the culture of the community and the world of childhood. He sits down at the story table. I have a story, Vijay says softly, surprising his teacher, who sits at a table writing down the stories children dictate to her. This is the first time Vijay has offered to tell a story without her encouragement. His story has no other outlet at school, since he did not tell it to the tower builder in the blocks. He might have waited until he got home, but perhaps there would be no one there ready to listen. Clearly, he could not wait. His story must be told now, and the words tumble out. This was a plane, he begins. Then it went to O'Hare, and it picked up my grandpa last year. And my grandma was at Madras, and then she went to India, and we went to the Westin Hotel building, and the plane crashed into O'Hare and into the Westin Tall building. And then they fixed the plane, and they had to fix all the people. And they were going home, but they couldn't fix the building. It was on fire. Mrs. Ruparel's son gives Vijay a solemn look. Who will you be when we act out your story, she asks. In this class, the dictated story is but a half-told tale. To fulfill its destiny, it is dramatized on a pretend stage with the help of classmates as actors and audience and the teacher as narrator and director. The airplane, Vijay says, rolling his toy back and forth on the table. He waits a moment, then adds, Do you know what Vijay means? It means victory. Vijay means victory? I'm glad you told me that. Mrs. Ruparel Sen needs more information. Will we see the plane being fixed? And the people too? Yes, Vijay says. How do you say the fixers? Mechanics, the teacher suggests. He nods. And a doctor for the people and the ambulance and the firemen too, but not a loud noise. Mrs. Ruparel Sen writes down the additional directions. Victory, she repeats. When the people go home in your story, it's another victory. Costos has been moving a tiny superhero figure next to Vijay's paper. You need T-Rex in your story, he asks. You need T-Rex in your story, he asks. Sorry. He's a victory too, I'm pretty sure. Vijay shakes his head, but the boys stare silently at the doll that has the power of a dinosaur. Costos knows Vijay's subject matter. He is from Greece, and like Vijay, he has many relatives who fly to America frequently and stay in tall hotels. Costos is better able to place a fictional character between himself and the crash, perhaps because he has more practice in the doll corner and block areas where questions and explanations are worked out dramatically every day. When it is his turn to dictate a story, Costos picks up his classmates' theme, as though they are having a conversation. Once an airplane was going too fast with people in it. Then T-Rex came. He jumped up and down, and the airplane crashed into him, but he is much stronger. Then the people jump out on T-Rex's head, and he shakes the people off into the water because they can swim fast. Then they fall asleep, and their jackets are pillows. Props are seldom used in Mrs. Ruperl-Sen's class when stories are acted out, but when the T-Rex story is dramatized, the children performing it in it run to get their jackets, which they fold carefully into pillows. It is a moment of theater when words are unnecessary. A conversation has begun about the events of September 11th that will weave through children's stories and fantasy play. Grown-ups may speak often of that terrible time, and there will be repeated reports and replays on television. But the children must be able to imagine themselves swimming to safety and using their jackets as pillows. For the next several days, the children reenact aspects of Vijay's and Costos' stories. Whatever the plot, there is a plane crash, and the children bring their jackets. By the following week, Vijay is now the grandfather in the doll corner with thoughts of plane crashes set aside. What an astonishing invention is this activity we call fantasy play. Are we really willing to let it disappear from our preschools and kindergartens? I'm not inclined to encourage fantasy play anymore if my teachers can't handle it, a preschool director admitted recently. If the teachers are worried about what's coming out, especially with the 4s and 5s, everyone is better off if we stick to lesson plans and projects. Has the play changed that much, I asked. The teachers think so. Maybe it's the increased tension since 9/11. Children do seem less prepared, more at risk. We're on safer ground with a somewhat academic curriculum. It's more dependable. I would have to disagree. There is no activity for which young children are better prepared than fantasy play. Nothing is more dependable and risk-free, and the dangers are only pretend. What we are in danger of doing is delegitimizing mankind's oldest and best used learning tool. In the pages that follow, my attention to fantasy play may appear to overwhelm the many other areas of exploration in a preschool and kindergarten. I would not do without the books we read and reread until they are memorized. The arts, crafts, and games we make and remake as we enlarge our perspectives and skills, and the music and poetry that give rhythm and rhyme to our feelings. However, since fantasy play is the glue that binds together all other pursuits, including the early teaching of reading and writing skills, I am compelled to put on a display as clearly as I can. A former editor of mine always asked, "What is the focus of your book, and where is the growth?" The spotlight here will be upon the dramatic play of young children, but the growth I attempt to record may well be my own. It is the development of their themes and characters and plots that children explain their thinking. It is in the development of their themes and characters and plots that children explain their thinking and enable us to wonder who we might become as their teachers. If fantasy play provides the nourishing habitat for the growth of cognitive, narrative, and social connectivity in young children, then it is surely the staging area for our common enterprise, an early school experience that best represents the national development of young children.